Okay, so yoga often works with body, mind, spirit, all super useful areas to be aware of, to build some competencies around, being aware of our body, you know, our mind, working with the spiritual domain. What's often missed, however, is the emotions in this. We did another video on that, so if you haven't checked out yoga and emotions, check that out. This is more the practical side now, that was a theory. So one way of thinking about our bodies is an emotional map and how we move our bodies. So that includes yoga postures. Emotions are embodied, and what I mean by that is they're sets of actions that have an internal subjective emotional tone, like positive or negative, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, but they also shapes. We also do emotions. So we say I got angry is actually more accurate linguistically to say I did anger. Yeah, I did anger at you specifically, yeah? So they're things we do in the body. So if we think of something like mountain pose as kind of a very balanced emotional state, so in this sense, or, you know, sitting meditation, these kind of postures, we're quite balanced in that way, yeah? So think of emotions as a way we come off center, and not always as a bad thing. So it's not like I have to be like a robot balanced the whole time. So from this point of view, look at it in terms of direction. So if I go forwards and I'm open, I get into something like curiosity. I'm like, wow, look at what it, I'm looking at some people out the window. And naturally you come forwards and you're open, yeah? If I go forwards and tight, look at those people out there, yeah? That's something like anger. So my heels are off the ground now, actually. I'm like tight here, but and I have to be tight or else I'll literally fall over, actually. My whole back line is tight. So that forwards and tight, like when people get angry, they say, you want a piece of me? Yeah, come on. Yeah, bit of football hooligan style there. So that's a forwards movement. You go forwards when you get angry, yeah? Fear, on the other hand, we come onto our heels. Okay, we come back, we go, fucking hell, what is that? Yeah, if I'm tight and back, it's fear. And I'm like, shit, keep away from that. Yes, eyebrows go up, breathing tightens and stops, fight, flight response. Generally is about tightening the core, but it's a back movement as opposed to a forwards movement. If I'm like back and open, it's something like acceptance or even awe. It's like if let's say I'm out in the woods and I come across a beautiful scene or the Grand Canyon or just a beautiful woman, you know, I just go, wow, right? It's like, wow. There's grasping, but awe is like here, it's like, whoa. Yeah, if you met God, you wouldn't be like, hey God, you'd be like, whoa, hi. Yeah, it's a little bit close to fear. That's why you hear like awful and fear God. Actually, I think what was meant there was more like being in awe of God. And that's a real missing emotion from the modern world, actually. Yeah. So then we've got forwards and back. Out and in is more like social domain. It's more like if I'm taking space and being seen or if I'm more private. Emotionally, up and down are a big one. So I worked in a lot of countries and people will often say I'm down or I'm up or these kind of emotional associations. It's pretty universal. I remember I was teaching at a festival once, where was it? In the UK, in Dorset. And I said to about 100 people in the tent I was teaching yoga at, and I said, which direction's up? Which direction's joy? And this little girl, she must have been about 8 years old, just jumped in the air and went up. Yeah, and I was like, great, you've worked it out. It's not hard. It's why children have got so much up in them, because they're often quite happy, you know. They're like, yeah, lots of energy, they're up in the air. So joy is up, yeah? And these kind of postures, if you're trying to develop joy, in the same way as you might be trying to get in touch with anger or awe or whatever it is, trying to develop joy, these opening and uplifting postures, like we do hell yeah posture or fuck yeah posture in EYP, these up postures, it's hard not to be kind of like joyful as you do that, you know? There's also a risk in that is they get a bit ungrounded and you can become like up and tight is like anxious. If I'm like doing tree posture like this, I'm just making myself more anxious, yeah? I'm actually practicing anxiety at that point. Anxiety is usually up and tight, or like manicness, you know, like, you see this sometimes with some dance people I know. And then there's down, yeah? You think of yoga postures that are very grounded, that are solid, you know, feet on, you know, on all fours, those kind of things. That for me is about sadness in a moderate form. It's like, yeah, and sadness isn't a bad thing. So it's not like we have to be happy the whole time. This is what modern culture suggests. An appropriate sadness, an appropriate connecting to the earth, obviously, as well. The emotional side of this is sadness, but if that collapses, it's despair, depression, which just isn't helpful for anyone. So the down emotions really are about stability, being organized, yeah, and that could get stiff as well, a bit rigid, a bit stubborn. You could get too stubborn with the downness. Churchill was stubborn, you know, we all fight them on the beaches. He was down. Yeah, could be good or bad. and this slight sadness as well, as opposed to despair, or like down and tight is this over stubbornness. So it's a bit of a map for you. I hope that helps. How is this relevant? Well, in your yoga practice, what are you building? Which emotional ranges are you building? Are you just trying to be balanced the whole time and ignore the emotional domain, the part of being human? Is there a way in which you can incorporate this into your practice and teaching to help people become aware of and build different emotional capacities? I hope so. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, you can subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. More importantly, however, get the newsletter. So the newsletter you do, is that right? In the box here? Okay. So why you would want the newsletter? So you hear about the best videos, so you actually ask me questions, you can reply to the newsletter, I'll reply. You can hear about events, teacher trainings, other things that are happening, and stay in touch more reliably. So newsletter there.